Alright, so this is Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, Laura.
Ben loved the film.
I did love the film.
So, here we are.
Great. So tell me what this movie's about. No, just, please. No.
Okay,
we know what this movie's about. No.
Now, are you going to edit this thing, right?
Yes.
When the scandal broke in 2006, I had no idea what a JT Leroy even was, nor had I heard about the scandal, for that matter, nor had I read the books. So after Laura Albert decided that she would actually share her story with me upon viewing my film The Devil and Daniel Johnston, a film that deals vividly with the intersection of madness and creativity, it was now my turn to read these books, the books that JT Leroy wrote. I read Sarah in one sitting on a plane. Sarah's the novel. And I was a huge fan of Southern Gothic literature. In college, I loved Flannery O'Connor, Harry Crews, Tennessee Williams, and I felt immersed in this book. It was fantastic writing, and it was of that Southern Gothic tradition. That's how I felt. And when I read it, to be totally honest, I just got immersed inside the fiction. I wasn't thinking about who wrote it, and I think that's what happens anytime I read a book that I'm really enjoying. Regardless, what was interesting to me was finding that the themes of this book and her other book, The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things, the central themes were physical abuse, sexual abuse, and gender fluidity. The truck stop prostitution of the lot lizards, West Virginia, raccoon penis bones, jackalopes, that was all fiction. But her central themes that she was channeling, as I came to learn, were her own themes. And therefore, to answer your question, is writing therapy for the soul? I actually believe it is, yeah. I think that these books certainly showed that to me.
Yeah, I think that no matter how much I call the hotline and let them live in my body, there is something about the act of writing that allowed the broken bones to mend that nothing else ever did. A phone call was the same thing as like binging or taking drugs, or it never would really heal anything, it would just kind of cover it up. It was a Band-Aid. But it relieved the pain. So yeah, there was something about going in and writing, because the thing that's interesting is I never knew what was going to come out. I just, it's like turning yourself over completely to the process of creativity, which is a true transmigration of spirit for me. And having the spirit leave my body and find his own also helped.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's funny, I think anyone who grows up feeling so invisible and just completely not enough, not just, like, you don't even exist, like the world would be a better place if you were dead, that what you really want is to be beautiful and famous, and that's really what I wanted. And this whole process really allowed me to see, because during it, I was completely invisible. I was the invisible assistant. And even if Speedy was bawdy and loud, she still was the assistant, and nobody wanted to mess with her, but she was still invisible. what I really got to see is that fame doesn't fix anything. It was really great. And I got to hide, and the way a magician does a trick, they throw the light, and in the shadow they do the transformation, the magic. And I got to see how fame, beauty, all that stuff actually makes things worse. You still have to do the inside work. You still have to do the work.
Right.
I think we have this lie agreed upon that if you're famous, that everything's okay, that that's the ultimate, and I think that's why people will do reality shows and trade on intimate secrets, their family, everything, because fame is worth it. It's being seen, literally, and we have such a craving for being seen because I think we feel so incredibly empty inside. And what I really got is I needed to build that solidity from the inside out. It had to come organically. No amount of fame could fix my gaping need, my pain. Nothing. No amount is like alcohol. An alcoholic, like one drink is too much and a million isn't enough. So I know that hiding was perfect because I got to do the work in the shadows.
Yeah.
Well, it was fascinating. I came to learn that Laura Albert was one of the great documenters of herself I've ever encountered outside of Daniel Johnston. She had literally saved her whole life. I felt like it was in a way to say, like, I exist, from recordings since she was a young girl. That you hear in the film, like age 15, for instance, like when she's in the group home, that's her young girl voice. And she continued that process. What I found interesting was it was a way to create a truly immersive experience, which in nonfiction film is a goal of mine. So that's what it allowed me, and it allowed me to not have to rely on talking heads and just necessarily memories from other people's perspectives. So I was able to make a truly subjective film told by the author of the fiction on and off the page. And if you want to know what it was like to be on the phone with this young boy, JT Leroy, well, you don't have to imagine anymore. You can literally listen in, and I found that infinitely fascinating. Well, I don't know if it changed. I just feel like it was an incredible true story. It was beyond intricate with multiple characters. I mean, Laura literally plays herself. She plays the British handler Speedy. She's also Jeremiah Terminator Leroy on the phone. She's also the wizard behind the curtain of her sister-in-law Savannah Canute, playing the role in body of JT Leroy. Then she transforms into Emily Fraser, and she also invents the character of Astor, as well as her son Thor. So it's a big cast.
Yeah.
And it took a long time for me to peel all the layers of the onion apart and get down to what I think Herzog refers to as the ecstatic truth of it all. And once I was able to finally understand it, then create a 3-act journey for hopefully an audience to understand it as well. So it was just a very complicated, challenging task to try to tell the story, to the best of my abilities.
Yeah.
Well, the film is called Author. Therefore, we must hear from the author. But I can't, in a film, it's an hour and 50 minutes, this film. I can't read you a whole novel, let alone a short story. And it was very important for me to honor what I felt was exceptional writing. So choosing the passages that I ultimately animated was a wild trip, because what happened was, like, when I was a young boy, I heard about the Paul is Dead clues hidden on the Beatles albums. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget the experience I had playing the play-out groove of Strawberry Fields Forever, and you hear, I buried Paul. And it's just the most startling experience you can have happen to you. So when I was reading The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things and Sarah, I found all these clues of Laura hiding in plain sight, buried inside the fiction, and it was wild. So the biggest clue of all was staring me right in the face. It's in the title, The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things. Then I found passages where, JT is, hiding in plain sight, and she's got a secret and she wants to tell, but my eyes stay down. And that became an animation. And then, of course, my favorite one is when JT is talking to Gus Van Sant, and he says, I knew I was writing the future. And that's from the climax of the novel Sarah, when the boy girl, the he-she, gets found out by the lot lizards, and they are not happy that he-she is not who he-she says he-she was. And they want to come burn the he-she at the stake.
Right.
And
when I wrote that, I knew I was crying. I saved the keyboard. It's covered in chocolate, and I remember writing that scene, and I knew I was writing the future, and I was crying while I was writing it, and there was nothing. They're hunting him. He's revealed. They've accidentally, he's become something that he wasn't. He went along with it, and Pooh finds him in the woods, and he's naked, and they're hunting him with torches, and they're going to tear him limb to limb. And she says, "You knew. What were you thinking?" And he's like, "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." And that's exactly it. And I knew everything was going to come true, and there was absolutely nothing I could do to change it. And this was pre-JT. It was Terminator. There was no JT. There was no Savannah. But I knew, and that kind of thing happened all the time. And I have to say, it really blew my mind that after I was outed, the reveal, whatever you want to call it, that people didn't look at that. Like, even they said, like, as if the heart is deceitful, as if I wasn't aware that that was in the title, or all of the themes and everything I write about, as if that was all accidental. And because people joined the echo chamber of condemnation, and they hadn't read the work at all. They were just repeating stuff, and I think it was because of all the other people who had published memoir, and it got all caught up with that, where I'd published fiction. It was always labeled fiction. So it was all there, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm writing about these themes obsessively, and these themes were never on any bestseller list. There were no people we didn't even have gender fluidity, that language, it wasn't even there. The only people that were trans, it was kind of a joke. It was like RuPaul, which was a flamboyant kind of, or Priscilla of the Desert. It wasn't something that was quiet and just respectful and okay. It was kind of like funny, and it wasn't just allowed to be dressed transparently. And
what I found that was interesting is it was very simple. She knew she was going to be found out one day.
yeah.
And that's what happened.
Well, I thought Jeff would do a really great job, because I saw Devil and Daniel Johnston, which he sent to me, and it's a very hard story to tell. It's hard to take someone that's not necessarily sympathetic. I mean, this guy's tried to kill an old lady, just some of the things he's done, but you really care about him, and you understand how art intersects with mental illness. And I just love how much compassion he allowed, but organic, without having him, you don't feel his hand within it, and it's like hovering above. And so I just thought, okay, I like that he has similar sensibilities. He needed to come from my paradigm, which is he understood punk rock. Mm-hmm. And we have enough background similarities that I thought, okay, he can understand, because it's either somebody else looking at it, they see this diagnosis, when actually maybe it's this. and you need somebody who could do that. So I didn't want the celebrity stuff. Of course, that's what everybody came after me for. That was be a profound portrayal of what JT was about, what I'm about, my sensibilities, everything. So, because I knew it had to be all or nothing. Mm-hmm. One, I didn't have things cataloged. For me to sit there and go through everything, it never would have happened. So I just had to like say, here, good luck.
Yeah.
I only started once the film was really underway because I felt like I needed to have a wave underneath me and to feel supported and safe. It's kind of like going into the world pregnant. You don't want to bring a baby into the world during wartime. It's dangerous. And I couldn't get the storm door, the gate open. It's become a process. Now it's really easy. I go in. It was really, really hard. Writing was never easy for me. It really is like opening a vein. It really is, and it's like digging in, whether it's from JT or me. But now it's actually become habitual, and I miss it. Like with the film, it's cut into it, and my day is a success. For me, if I've gone in and gotten some work done.
Yeah.
But it's always hard. It's always really hard. I mean, writing is horrible. I absolutely can't stand it, but I love it at the same time. I mean, it's like sadomasochistic.
I reached out to many people, and many people just respectfully declined. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that, and I respect that as well. In the end, I was able to make the film I wanted to make, which was a subjective telling from the protagonist, from the author, from Laura Albert, and that's the great storyteller that takes us through this film, and that's something that I found was the best way to tell this story.
But, what's interesting is some of them have seen the movie and now they wish they had been in it.
I imagine, yeah.
Oh yeah. And part of it is they didn't understand all of it. Even having talked to me, there's a lot of people that know me and know me really well, but to get the whole condensed thing, because I'm very paisley, and when I talk I'm like this, and maybe like 40% of the time I land it back. To get it all condensed in one whole piece, they're like, oh, okay, now I get it. Oh, I should have done that. And it's like, if they had watched Devil and gotten what they were going to be in the hands of, they would have known and made the choice that I made.
Well, when you tell a story, you never know how it's going to turn out. And it's been incredibly satisfying to watch audiences, whether it was at Sundance or Paris or London, and now all over the States we're showing the film. And we were in Brooklyn just last weekend, and it's an overwhelming response, and it's so gratifying to see that all this hard work was worth it. That people, it's provoking a lot of thought and a lot of discussion. So I'm very much enjoying that.
Good.
And for me, it's hard. Every time I see the film, I tremble. We go into really intense subjects, and after the reveal, I wanted to be rescued right away, and I knew I needed something like this. But I wasn't ready, and it took, there's the poem, The Secret Subject of Any Story Worth Telling is Time, But You Can Never Say Its Name, by Robert Penn Warren. And it took, it's amazing, it's exactly 10 years. And I was able to go in and talk about things that they're shameful for me. And it's really difficult, but what's really beautiful is to be able to commune with people. And so many people come up that have gone through a wide range of different traumas in their life, physical, sexual abuse, gender issues, body, weight, addiction issues, and completely understand and get it, and it frees them up to be able to talk about it. And there is no greater feeling, and I'm grateful that I'm able to be here in my body and be available to that and share in that from people, because that is the single biggest gift to come from this for me.
Mm-hmm.